You'll meet these 7 dark chosen ones. It's already written. At some point on your spiritual path, you'll encounter people who don't just shift your energy, they dismantle it, restructure it, and rebuild it into something unrecognizable. These people are not accidents. They don't cross your timeline randomly. You meet them at thresholds, at turning points, often when your soul is begging for truth or your life is falling apart. These are the dark chosen ones. And yes, you will meet them, not all at once, not in the same form, but it's already written. The meeting is encoded into your spiritual blueprint, and when it happens, you'll feel it in your bones, even if your mind tries to deny it. These 7 types of beings are not just humans. They're archetypes, triggers, mirrors, tests. They hold keys to your next level, but only if you're brave enough to face what they awaken in you. You'll never forget the first one, the Shadow Initiator. This is the one who breaks you, and they do it without mercy. At first, you'll mistake them for an enemy. They may betray you, abandon you, humiliate you, or shatter something sacred in your life. But their role isn't cruelty, it's activation. The Shadow Initiator comes to collapse the illusions you've built your identity around. If you built your worth on being needed, they'll reject you. If you built your identity on control, they'll introduce chaos. If you built your life on lies, they'll explode the truth in your face. You'll hate them. You'll blame them. But years later, if you're awake, you'll bless them. Because without them, you would have stayed asleep. They didn't come to love you. They came to expose you. And nothing is more sacred than the one who pulls the poison from your soul, even if it feels like they're stabbing you to do it.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Then there's the second one, the Mirror of Madness. This person seems irrational, unstable, confusing. They trigger you in ways you can't explain. They reflect your own chaos, your suppressed fears, your hidden wounds. They are your emotional doppelganger, the embodiment of everything inside you that you've tried to outgrow or silence. You'll try to fix them, save them, understand them, but they'll never cooperate. They're not here for resolution. They're here to show you your own reflection when you've forgotten what it looks like. If you project onto them, you'll spiral. But if you observe, if you ask, what part of me does this person mirror? You'll unravel threads you didn't even know you were holding. And with that unraveling comes freedom. The third is even more enigmatic. I call them the frequency splitter. This is someone you deeply connect with, but who forces you to choose. Not between them and someone else, but between who you were and who you're becoming. They might be a soulmate, a friend, a mentor. The connection will feel divine, electric. But eventually your growth will challenge theirs or vice versa, and the friction will become unbearable. That's the test. Will you shrink to keep the connection or rise and risk losing it? The frequency splitter doesn't betray you. They reveal your alignment. And when you choose yourself, you'll ascend. When you compromise, you'll stagnate. Either way, the relationship marks a turning point. It sears itself into your soul like a scar, a doorway. The fourth dark chosen one is the seer in disguise. You won't recognize them at first. They may seem ordinary, quiet, odd, even broken. But when you're around them, something inside you starts to wake up. They'll say something casual that shakes you for weeks. They'll look at you in a way that strips your mask clean off. They don't try to guide you, but they change your direction without trying. You don't understand why, but you feel different around them, like your frequency rearranges. They rarely explain themselves. Their magic is subtle. But one day you'll realize this person rerouted your entire life just by being who they are. They didn't give you answers. They made you ask better questions. And that's a far more powerful gift. But the fifth one, they're terrifying because they are the wound keeper. This is the person who reopens your deepest, oldest pain. They don't even have to try. Their energy, their presence, their timing, it all aligns perfectly with the trauma you thought you had buried or healed. And the moment you meet them, it all comes back. The childhood memory, the betrayal, the abandonment. You'll feel powerless again. And that's the point. The Wound Keeper comes when you're strong enough to finally finish what you survived. They offer you the rare chance to meet your pain from a place of power, not victimhood. If you engage consciously, you'll close the cycle. If you resist, you'll bleed all over your future. They are both danger and medicine. They are the past, demanding completion. Now here's where things get really intense. Because number 6 is not a person, it's a presence. I call it the quiet challenger. It doesn't speak much. It doesn't give you advice. But when it shows up in your life in the form of someone you admire, someone who holds deep silence, deep stillness, you feel your soul screaming. Why? Because they hold a vibration that exposes every corner of you that isn't fully aligned. They don't argue. They don't need to. Their being confronts your performance, and you'll either want to flee or awaken. The quiet challenger is pure contrast. They walk like they've remembered something ancient. They look at you like they know your potential and your excuses. And if you can sit in their presence without defending yourself, you'll accelerate faster than you ever thought possible. And finally, the 7th, the one you never see coming until it's too late, the reflective catalyst. This person doesn't destroy you or challenge you. They simply awaken you, not through drama but through love, real love, the kind you don't think you deserve, the kind that melts your armor instead of breaking it. They'll believe in you before you do. They'll speak to the version of you that exists beyond pain. And because of that, you'll sabotage it. That's the test. Can you let yourself be loved at the level you've always craved? Can you accept the mirror of your highest self without destroying the connection in fear? The reflective catalyst shows you that all the pain, all the tests, all the breakdowns were preparing you for this. To be seen, to be safe, to be real. So now I ask you, with zero drama and all honesty, which one have you already met? Which one are you resisting? And more importantly, which one are you becoming for someone else? Why these 7 encounters are not accidents but pre-written contracts in the dark realms of destiny. Most people believe their lives are a series of coincidences, accidents, random intersections of free will colliding with luck or misfortune. But when you start to awaken, truly awaken, you begin to feel something deeper pulsing underneath it all. You begin to sense that some of the most life-altering encounters you've had were far too perfectly timed, far too emotionally precise, far too cosmically calculated to be random. The truth is, the 7 dark chosen ones you meet on your path were already woven into your soul's contract before you even took your first breath. You agreed to these meetings. You accepted the roles. You signed the pain. Why? Because these weren't relationships. They were initiations. Imagine this. Before entering this life, your soul sat at the edge of the void with other souls from the same ether, beings from the same divine lineage, and you said, "We'll meet again. We'll hurt each other if we must. We'll awaken one another through fire, silence, heartbreak, madness, even love. Because without these collisions, we'll forget who we are." And that's exactly what happens. You forget. And then, one day they appear. The initiator, the mirror, the catalyst. You don't recognize the contract, but your energy does. That strange familiarity, that unshakable pull, that sense of why do I feel like I've known them forever? That's not fantasy. That's memory, soul memory. The memory of what was agreed long before the veils of this reality covered your vision. But why would you agree to pain? Why would you choose to meet someone who would betray you, devastate you, reflect your worst traits, trigger your deepest wounds? Because on the level of the soul, Pain is not evil, it is precision. You didn't come here to live a quiet, numb life. You came to remember. And remembering requires friction. You had to be shaken. You had to be undone. And no one undoes you like a dark chosen one. That's why they're different from other people. Their energy is heavier, older, more potent. When they walk into your life, you feel something shifting in your field before they even speak. They activate dormant codes in you. They don't bring you peace. They bring you permission to unravel, to expand, to die and be reborn. Each of these 7 isn't just someone you meet, they are someone your soul recognizes. And each of them carries a different frequency meant to unlock something buried in you. The Shadow Initiator doesn't just break your heart. They break your ego. Because the identity you built was never who you truly were. It was armor, trauma, survival. And it had to be shattered. So you contracted someone to walk into your life and play the role of destroyer. Not out of cruelty, but out of love. A love so fierce, so ancient, so sacred, that they agreed to play the villain in your story just so you could wake up. Who does that? Only someone you've met before. Only a soul who loves you enough to be hated by you. And the same goes for the mirror, the wound keeper, the catalyst. These are not relationships in the human sense. These are portals. They don't just mark time, they mark timelines. After meeting them, your life splits. There is who you were before them, and who you are after. They arrive like storms, like riddles, like holy messengers in tattered disguise. And the reason they're so hard to handle is because they're not here for your comfort. They're here for your awakening. An awakening isn't soft. It's violent. It shreds illusions, strips lies, and demands brutal self-honesty. You can't go through it and stay the same. That's why these beings feel so disruptive. They pull things out of you that you didn't even know were there. And here's the paradox: you may not get to keep them. Most of these meetings are temporary. They're not meant to stay. They're meant to shake the floor, expose the cracks, let the light in, and then vanish. That's the hardest part, accepting that not all soulmates are forever. Some come to complete a chapter, not the whole book. But if you try to hold on longer than you're meant to, you start corrupting the gift. You turn a sacred initiation into a prolonged wound. So many people make this mistake: they confuse activation with attachment. Just because someone triggered your awakening doesn't mean they're meant to walk every step of it with you. Some teachers only teach one lesson. Some mirrors only show one reflection. And that's enough. The rest is your work to do. But don't be fooled. Even if they're gone, the contract is never broken. You carry their frequency in your field now. You wear the scar like a medal. You hear their voice in your soul when you're on the edge. That's how you know the agreement was honored. Because part of them lives in you and part of you lives in them. That's why when you cross paths again, even years later, you'll feel it instantly. A shift. A silence. A gravitational pull that no logic can explain. So I ask you now, with all seriousness and sacred weight, are you ready to honor the soul contracts you've already made? Are you willing to stop resisting the very people who were sent not to harm you, but to wake you? Can you accept that every heartbreak was actually a hidden handshake between souls? That every dark encounter was part of your return to light? Because if you can, you'll begin to see this life not as chaos, but as choreography. And suddenly you won't curse the pain, you'll bow to it. When you become one of the 7, the moment you realize you're the test for someone else. There comes a moment on the path, quiet, unsettling, holy, when the realization dawns on you. You are not just meeting the 7 dark chosen ones. You are becoming one of them. Not in theory, not in poetic language, but in lived reality. You look back and see the wreckage behind you, the people who walked away from you angry, confused, or awakened. You recall conversations that cracked people open, not because you tried to, but because your presence triggered what they were hiding. And slowly, with trembling humility, you understand you were the test. This is not an ego boost. It's a reckoning. Because the moment you realize you've been someone's shadow initiator, their mirror, their catalyst, the weight of it changes you. You stop speaking just to be heard. You begin to feel the intensity of your own energy. You recognize the spiritual weapon that is your voice, your gaze, your frequency. And the responsibility of it humbles you to the core. You begin to wonder, how many people met me at a turning point? How many chose to evolve or collapse after our encounter? The truth is, every dark chosen one eventually becomes someone else's reckoning. Not because we want to hurt people, but because our presence carries too much truth to be ignored. You walk into a room, and the unspoken things start screaming. People feel seen in a way they've avoided for years. Some will be drawn to you with awe. Others will feel inexplicably defensive. It's not about you, it's what you awaken in them. Your light is jagged. It doesn't soothe. It confronts. And for those who are ready, that confrontation is salvation. For those who aren't ETA, it feels like war. You might think, but I never intended to hurt them. Of course not. That's the paradox. The dark, chosen ones don't choose to play these roles. We are chosen by the current of spiritual timing. We show up when someone's soul cries out for growth. And sometimes we're the answer to that prayer, but not in the way their ego hoped for. We don't hand them healing, we hand them a mirror. And whether they smash it or stare into it, that's their path, not yours. But this realization forces you to change how you move. You become quieter, not out of fear, but respect. You observe more. You speak less. You begin to ask yourself deeper questions before offering guidance, before engaging conflict, before entering someone's space. You wonder, is this my role, or am I forcing an activation that's not mine to give? That self-awareness marks the evolution from being unconsciously dangerous to being consciously divine. You stop needing to be right. You stop trying to wake people up, because you know if they're meant to see, they will. Your presence is already the key. You don't need to turn it. Eventually, you begin to notice strange patterns. People message you out of nowhere saying, I don't know why, but I needed to talk to you. Strangers cry in your presence. Friends vanish after one deep conversation. Lovers come and go like seasons, but each one leaves different than they arrived. And it starts to make sense. You are no longer just navigating your own transformation. You are part of the architecture of others' destinies. You become a spiritual trigger point in the matrix. And it's not glamorous. It's lonely, but it's sacred. So ask yourself now and be honest. Has someone ever collapsed after meeting you? Not because you harmed them, but because your presence peeled off something they were hiding. Have you ever spoken a truth that ended a connection but saved a soul? Have you ever walked away, knowing you weren't abandoning them but honoring the contract that said your part in their journey was complete? Because if you have, then you're not just meeting the seven anymore. You are one of them. The final revelation why the dark chosen ones are the hidden architects of human awakening. If you've ever wondered why your life has been harder, why your relationships burn down instead of last, why you feel everything so deeply it almost drives you mad, this is your answer. You weren't meant to walk the easy path. You were chosen to architect a new one. That's the final revelation. The dark chosen ones are not just wanderers, healers, or old souls. They are hidden architects of awakening. They are the ones who break the spells that keep humanity asleep, quietly, relentlessly, often at great personal cost. Not because they want to be heroes, but because their very existence disrupts what is false. You've probably felt this for years. A strange pull toward depth while everyone else seemed fine with surface. A growing discomfort around fakeness, empty rituals, hollow goals. Maybe you've sabotaged your own success, not out of fear, but because your soul rejected what wasn't aligned. Maybe people told you to just get over it, just play the game, just be normal. But no matter how hard you tried, you couldn't. And now you know why. Because you weren't made for that world. You were made to recode it. And that coding doesn't happen in temples or stages. It happens through your presence, your collapse, your survival, your rebirth. Dark chosen ones don't teach with manuals. We teach through frequency. Every time you walk away from what insults your soul, you create a new template. Every time you speak truth in a room full of lies, you send a vibrational shockwave through the collective unconscious. Every time you hold space for someone's breakdown instead of fixing it, you create a new model for love. And every time you face your own darkness without running, you earn the right to help others do the same. Not by saving them, not by leading them, but by being what they forgot was possible. Most of us were forged in silence. We were initiated not through mentorship but through abandonment. We learned to breathe in environments where others choked. We didn't become powerful because we were told we were. We became powerful because we remembered. Pain carved us open. Loss expanded our capacity. Confusion stripped us bare. And from that emptiness, something sacred began to speak. That voice didn't sound like religion or self-help books. It sounded ancient, internal, real. It didn't tell us we were special. It told us we were responsible, not for saving the world, but for being so aligned, so unapologetically true, that the illusion of the world couldn't touch us anymore. And when you reach this point, you start to notice something extraordinary. You're no longer addicted to the healing journey. You're not obsessed with fixing yourself, because you realize you were never broken. You were just carrying codes no one could interpret. You were shaped by timelines too old to be spoken. And now, those codes are becoming visible. Through your art, through your voice, through the quiet way you say no to things that used to own you, through the fierce, terrifying way you choose solitude over selling your soul. This is what the world doesn't understand. Awakening doesn't look like peace. It looks like death. It looks like being misunderstood by everyone, including yourself. It looks like walking away from everything you once prayed for because your vibration has outgrown it. But in the ashes of that death, something impossible happens. You begin to see. You see through people, through systems, through yourself. You understand the root of suffering, and you stop reacting to the world. You start responding from the soul. And that's when the final piece clicks. You realize this was never about you, not your pain, not your tests, not even your purpose. This has always been about what moves through you, the force, the frequency, the encoded wisdom that needed your scars to come alive. You were the channel, the vessel, the mirror, the messenger, and you still are. That's why you'll never fit in. You were never meant to. You're not here to belong to the old world. You're here to birth the next one. So now let's ask the question no one dares to ask. If all of this has already been written, if the 7 you met and the 7 you're becoming are part of a spiritual blueprint beyond space and time, what are you still resisting? Why do you still doubt the magnitude of your presence? What would change if you stopped asking for proof and started embodying the prophecy you already are? You don't need more signs. You are the sign. You don't need to chase your calling. You are the call. And somewhere, someone is about to meet you, their 7th, their reckoning, their reflection, and they'll have no idea that it's already written. And you are the reason they'll remember who they truly are. Welcome to the end, which is only the beginning.